Well, good morning and welcome. We have a really great session here today. It is jam-packed full of content, so we're going to get going very, very quickly. Hopefully you joined in yesterday for reaching out to the decision maker. If you missed that one, of course, the easiest way is to check out my SelfRecruiter YouTube channel. That'll help you quite a bit in taking back control and really charting a new course for yourself. Whether you're thinking about changing careers or just managing your career in a different way, make sure to pay attention to all your career materials, because you certainly never know when opportunity is going to knock and you need to be ready. Tomorrow, join me for how to build a social media campaign to really manage and lift your brand to a very, very new level. That's tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern. Let's jump in for today. This is charting your career transition. A lot of us would like to change what we're doing. I'm so done with this. But now what can I do? This lecture today is part of the entire SelfRecruiter series. It's about taking control of those choices. It's about networking in a very different way. Also about keeping one eye on the toughest competitor imaginable, because you can beat those people even though they may seem perfect. There's no such thing as perfect. Those perfect people tend to suffer from ego and arrogance and actually don't really prepare. They get themselves dressed or whatever it might be, which we all have to do, but that's not preparation. Little strategy, little planning, you can outmaneuver them. Well, today's really about looking for a new direction, whether that's into a new industry or a new role, whatever it might be. I'm so done and tired of what I have been doing, but how is it that I can do something else? You know, you run into people that object, you don't have this industry background, you don't have experience in this role. I don't. See that as baggage, because there's lots of people that have that industry experience or have that role experience that brings so much baggage with them and so many wrong ways of doing things. When you're inspired and energized and have the intellect to pursue it, you can reinvent yourself very, very easily. I've reinvented myself several times in my career, and I'll even share a little bit of that with you today. Most times, though, we get confronted with, well, you can't do that. You can't do that. You have to, we'd like to think it's as simple as going after the job, getting the job, if it were really that easy. But everybody's really sitting doing the same darn thing you're doing, hitting that darn apply button. And if you don't seem cookie cutter perfect, you don't match the magical checkbox list, we get stuck in this very, very terrible place. Now, in terms of reinventing ourselves, here's the secret you may not like. In people's minds, you can only do whatever you've done before. I'm looking for exactly the same thing to place into this role. And where does that leave career growth and personal growth and everything else kind of out the window? Leaves us mostly in a very unhappy place that we have to kind of get ourselves out of this rut by going back and forth, these grooves that we get stuck in. Well, whatever's holding you back, whatever's holding you in place, we have to get over it. We have to be able to put it up on the shelf and move it out of our way. In case you haven't seen me before, John Crant, author, career coach, and speaker, resume and LinkedIn guru as well. So if you're suffering like most really are with very poor storytelling across your resume, across your LinkedIn profile, that's really preventing you from getting the opportunities that you should, being compensated at the right level that you should, work with someone that can significantly lift your brand. I'm a great storyteller, a great nuance creator in that story to really lift and position each part of your background. Check my SelfRecruiter website under the services tab. All the packages are listed there. Some other resources that'll help, certainly my book, you can check it out over on Amazon, SelfRecruiter, Changing the Rules. Big believer in changing any rule that does not work for us. Also on my LinkedIn profile, you can click through and get to a number of articles that will really help solve a lot of the individual challenges that you're facing. Now, today's challenge is, how can I be something else? How can I be something new, something different? And this involves having to reinvent our career narrative. How are we going to change things? Well, when you go into a new direction, it will help you and motivate you if you understand about half of the workforce is mediocre, of only moderate quality, not very good, ordinary, average, middling, middle of the road. Well, I won't go through the whole thing today, but you understand. So what do you have to be ahead of almost everybody else? Just a little bit better than mediocre. Not quite enough, though. if you pour just a little bit of heart and soul into whatever it is you're doing, you'll naturally be that top 1, 2, or 3%. And you can very easily beat these competitors. Well, who are these competitors, these people trying to take the job? Well, it's not as simple as us just being cookie cutter perfect to the competitor. Well, that will get you the lowest salary offering, because I'll take number two, and I'm gonna pay you less. No, you don't want less. I'll take number 3, take number 5. Doesn't matter to me. I'm paying you less because you're all cookie cutter perfect, interchangeable. You have to be that, but also be something special and different. And when transitioning, you have a very, very significant opportunity to be able to do that. We're going to have to go back and think to ourselves, what is it that we do better, or think we'll do better, or will do better than that next person? And that's really understanding what you offer and why you're fundamentally more valuable. We're going to have to go through a transformation in not only presentation of ourselves, but also the storytelling about ourselves across our materials and in what we say about ourselves. This is part of the process of really chameleoning our way over to a new career, to a new opportunity, new direction. There are a lot of ways that you can take your background that you've done one way for quite some time and use it in a very new way. But of course, you have to be able to hear those clues through the noise. So back to this understanding of why you think you're going to be better or are better than somebody else, all of that has to be taken forward. Now, if you'd like a little inspirational viewing that will help you, a big believer in this motto, life is a banquet and most poor suckers are starving to death, said best by Auntie Dame Mame Dennis, if I can get that right, from the movie Auntie Mame. Of course, I'm talking about the Rosalind Russell version, best one in existence. The reason why I bring this up, it's a great opportunity to understand a lot of life lessons and also how to reinvent yourself if you just read past the lines of the storytelling, because Auntie Mame has to reinvent herself many, many times. For us, let's think about in terms of dreaming. We're dreaming of a new career. Well, let's think about actual dreaming for a minute and think about those lucid dreams. Lucid dreams are dreams where you're aware that you're dreaming and you feel like you have some control over where that dream may be going to. If we're lucky, we feel that way in our career, and you have to begin to think of your career that same way, the career as the lucid dream. How am I aware of the career, and how can I begin to have control over it? And that comes down from understanding, well, who are the target companies you'd like to work for? Where are those dream jobs? Who are the best people doing those jobs? And what do they have that I don't have? And can I go get it? And that's a little bit of the first steps of how you begin to chameleon your way to the new opportunity. So let's go back and think about, what qualities do I have? What makes me tick? I'm a product and I have to understand my product better than anybody else. Where's my passion? What do I love to do? All of these things we filter through a singular lens. Simple question. Why is it going to be the very best business decision they choose to make today if they choose to hire me? If they're going to roll the dice on me rather than someone just from some competitor, I have to bring something different to the table. There has to be some sort of magic in this process, in this product. How are we going to want them to want our product more than the next product, create more desire? Of course, small changes change perception. We're going to change parts of the story element on our resume, parts of the story element on LinkedIn. That begins to take control of the discussion. And all of that begins with you having an idea of what you'd like to be. Let's get to the first part for today, and that is to know thyself. We have to know why we're more valuable than the next 5 or 6 competitors. We have to make a laundry list of that. We have to begin to be able to sell that by managing our brand. Now, for most individuals, this is a longer exercise than just jotting a few different things down. So we have to do something called a personal inventory. That means we have to go back and set aside the way we've always told that story, always done that story, and we have to find all the missing pieces that we somehow let slip away or slide away, or we hid away on purpose for some other reason earlier. All of those are part of your career assets, part of the different storytelling angles that you can present for yourself. So you have to begin to think about all of those things and how they're going to come to life. So to distill all that down, it's very simple. Of what do you love to do? If you're looking to change roles, There's a motivator. So what would you like to do? Can you get paid for it? Are you really good at it? Because you're not going to get paid for it if you're not really good at it. Is it where your passion is focused? Because you'll be more successful if it aligns with your passions. Do you have those skills, or do you need to go get those skills? Those are two different things. Is there something else that you can do? Or is there something even that you're afraid of? When I wrapped up my career as a recruiter, 7 or 8 years in outside recruitment, traditional headhunter on a desk, having to go into competitor companies, find the superstar, lure them out. It's very much like the Millionaire Matchmaker, really. It's very, very, very close. Maybe I should have gone that direction. It's a glorified dating process, really, with a lot of intellect involved. But after I spent all of that time in recruiting, and now I'm the national trainer and VP over all these 100 office recruiting system, I'm like, I'm so done with recruiting, so done with recruiting. Oh, but now what? And I had to reinvent myself. And the what am I afraid of is a very interesting piece, because no matter what you see here or how you perceive me, in reality, I'm shy and introverted, which usually makes my friends spit out their coffee when they hear it, because they've never seen it. Just because I have firm control over it with technique does not mean it's not true. So back to the what am I afraid of? I think way back in college, when I had to take a speech class, it was one of the requirements for some passion I wanted to pursue. And I got to take a speech class. I'm like, get up in front of people. And I am good at following the recipe, following the outline, following the steps. And so the professor gave us all of those, and I constructed my talk following all those points and made it interactive and made it engaging. And the whole time I'm like hanging onto the podium and I'm like trying not to shake. And I got done, and a lot of the students were like, wow, that was very good. That was very good. I'm like, are you sick? That was terrible. Except that I followed the recipe, and many of them didn't follow the recipe. Never could have imagined I would end up being a public speaker, with how I was so completely nauseated after that. But oftentimes what we're afraid of can lead you toward really the right thing for you. And this is something I plucked off Facebook quite a few years ago. I just want you to think about finding that magical area that is a blend of what the world needs, what the world will pay for, something you're very, very good at, and hopefully something that you love. I certainly love what I do, and it's really not a day's work ever, because I have passion for it. That's a big difference in your career. Let's get closer and closer to the passion line. In addition to that, we have to add in which employers would benefit most by hiring this skill set, or hiring what you would like to do. Aligning those and going after the right suitors changes everything. Statistically perfect companies that would love to hire your passions. Don't forget the 2 reasons you really get hired. Now, I do want you capable and qualified. Don't mishear it. I'm not going to hire you if you're not capable and qualified, but I really hire you because of these 2. Why are you interesting? What makes you tick? Chemistry, above all other things, is the reason for the hiring decision, if you're capable and qualified. Number 2, it is confidence in you, above all things than chemistry. And that's before the credentialing, the background, what you've really done for others. So my gosh, let's not forget to include this part of our story as we're finding the right way to chameleon to what we'd like to. Let me get some coffee. All of this is about influence, how you influence other people to see you, and how you influence people's perception of your value itself. So let's go back and do a real inventory. If you took out a piece of paper, or you take out your iPad and a pen to write, whatever it might be, we're going to go back and we're going to assemble everything that we've ever done, everything that we've ever touched. This is part of rediscovering your story to figure out how to align and sell your story in the future. Very similar to what I do with my clients when I'm helping them reinvent their resume or reinvent their LinkedIn profile, change the perception of the value they bring to the stage. So remember all of these things as we kind of go through our inventory. So let's start writing down everything we might have done. Maybe you were a shoplifting monitor or a stock person. Should I write that down? Write it down. Write it down. Maybe you were a cashier or a retail manager, or maybe you were a shoe salesman or a chef or a restaurateur. You could have done so many different things. Or maybe you were other things. Maybe you were a business owner. Maybe that's it. Or maybe you were a student. Maybe you even went back to school. Maybe you were a salesperson at Macy's over the holiday season. Could be. Auntie Mame was. Maybe you're a retail manager, computer services manager, a general manager. Who knows what it might be? You could be all these things, or you could be a recruiter or headhunter, a recruiting trainer. You could be a national training manager. You could be VP over 100 office recruiting system, a founder of 2 companies, or you could think about all those things together, and you could be, here it comes, an author, career coach, and speaker. If you didn't put all those dots together, that's my entire background since I was about 8 years old as the shoplifting monitor in my folks' store. Nobody expects an 8-year-old to catch them shoplifting. You're stealing from my family. Definitely got you. All of these things, including the holiday season at Macy's with a line that never stopped for 8 hours straight. Got so many job offers in that 8 hours. So many people handing me their business card going, wow, if you need a job after this one, come to me. And had someone come to my lectures going, well, I worked Macy's the holiday season. I didn't get any job offers. I'm like, did you demonstrate why you should be hired? All of these things, you can reinvent yourself many, many different ways. Every bit of this is my background over the years. I've done many different things. Each time I've run the path through one, I thought, what would I like to do next? What could I do next? And how do I reinvent myself? So all of this together is about creating engagement, which is a whole lot closer to that style engagement than the mechanical style. But you have to start by understanding what your assets might be and how to position and sell all of those different things. It doesn't mean we position and sell all of them. In fact, this is the only lecture I list them all out in. But it does mean you have to then selectively go back and create that story, set the stage, set the lighting. To have it be effective, of course, you've got to know your target market. That means you have to think about whatever assets, career assets, and skills you're trying to sell. Who is it that's going to benefit from that? Who would like to hire that? It's our time to sell our assets off, not like jiggle a coin in a cup going, I'd like some opportunity. Well, keep going. Everyone would. It's your time to sell why you'll be unique and special and why you'll be the right one rather than just those people that have done it before for the competitor that bring all of their baggage with them. We have to prepare our resume. We have to prepare our LinkedIn profile. If you haven't seen my resume renovation lecture, easiest is the SelfRecruiter YouTube channel. Go through your resume and change it. We're in a world where no one wants to read. So let me be clear. If I'm reinventing a resume for a client, there's not a single sentence anywhere on that resume. Not unless there's a quote. We're in a world where no one will read. Why would I put a sentence on a resume? It's not even logical. You have to convert over to concept communications. That's a great lecture that will really help you look at your resume a very, very different way. Your other marketing materials have to sell you too. That means your LinkedIn, of course, it has to become a 3-dimensional sales brochure, kind of the polar opposite to the resume in my view. Resume, single sheet of paper, containing the essence and value of your career on a single sheet that makes them jump out of the chair. Oh, get them in here. I have to speak with them. Ding, ding, ding. Something goes on. The polar opposite of that is how do you transform that skeletal system, the structural backbone, into this full 3-dimensional sales brochure about you? That's an effective LinkedIn profile. Check out my LinkedIn lecture. It'll help you a lot. Your cover letter has to sew all this together, almost in an art form of presentation and selling you up on a silver platter so they understand why you're so special. Don't forget, in a cover letter also, it's a date, which means it has to be about them before it's ever about you. I know it's about you, but it's got to be about them. Pre-cover letter email, what's that? Well, if you took your whole cover letter, which is probably 4 or 5 paragraphs, and stuck it in an email, no one's going to read it. But if you were artful and your first paragraph is masterful in that artful cover letter, maybe the first paragraph might be the pre-cover email, just enough to spark their attention and interest with my full cover letter attached. Pre-cover letter, signature block. You open up a new email to send an email. Is your email blank? You don't have a signature block. You have to have something in there that sells you. Leave behind is something, of course, we leave behind. Basic sales item. We leave it behind after meeting with someone so they can keep thinking about us, and that can keep selling to them. If you need help with your LinkedIn, check out my SelfRecruiter website about halfway down the page. Very unique version of my LinkedIn lecture where you can see me large or the slides large and really use that as a start and stop tutorial as you build out a better LinkedIn profile. Well, let's get ready to rumble. We have to be effective. So if we're going to get out there and sell this new us, that means we have to think about using email and voicemail. And oh my gosh, what if they answer the phone live and I have to network and all that kind of stuff. Yep, all of that is involved in selling ourselves and pitching the new us. A lot of what will bridge the gap between what you used to do and what you would like to do will be right within your social media usage. So I want you to think in terms of LinkedIn. We'll talk about LinkedIn, but these same concepts apply to other platforms, whether you're using X or Twitter, whatever we want to call that thing, or Instagram or whatever else you might be using. All of that can show a different aspect of who you are, and you have to think about that because that's part of the selling process too. We're going to show you a bunch of shares here coming up. When you refresh your career story, not only is that the resume in LinkedIn, it's about this social media feed, which means all the way around across all those different avenues of storytelling about you, you've got to become the content guru of you. You have to understand where you'd like to go or how to correct for a new trajectory in your story. I want to quit talking about what I no longer want to do, and I want to start talking about all the things I really want to do. And most of this we're going to accomplish through a digital self-marketing campaign right on LinkedIn. By the way, that's tomorrow's lecture, how to spend 2 hours of homework to build a full self-marketing plan that then just takes you 2 minutes out of your entire day. I wake up in the morning, I grab my first cup of coffee, I go copy, paste, share. What did that take? 15 seconds. Get my second cup of coffee, copy, paste, share. Time for lunch, copy, paste, share. Afternoon, coffee hound, copy, paste, share. End of the day, copy, paste, share. 4, 5, 6 times a day, like breathing. And it took me all of 2 minutes out of my entire day. And I have an effective social media campaign to change perception, to land my profile in front of the right decision makers for the new direction. You see it right there. It's all about influence. It's about taking control of the discussion. This is hitting the chessboard with strategic sharing that will do really wonders for your career. So let's think about what we're going to do. Just a little bit of a snippet here, and this is a little short version of what will be in tomorrow's session. We're going to build this content list about you that is 25 to 30 items. This is the 2 hours of homework. It's a mix of articles, of books, events, everything about the new thing that you want to do, the new industry you want to do, not the old one, unless you still want to potentially get hired over there, but mostly all the new one as you chameleon your way a new direction. If something is really special, I might put it on an editorial calendar. Oh, I want that to go out on Thursday. Okay. Everything else, I just wake up in the morning, get the next one on the list, copy, paste, share, copy, paste, share, copy, paste, share, write down the list till I get to the bottom. When I get to the bottom, I go all the way to the top like a little wheel that a gerbil is running on. Almost no one statistically will be able to see a repeat with 25 to 30 items. This is a marketing campaign that lands you on people's desks in the desired industry. Do it like breathing. So you have to think like a storyteller. Have to be interesting, has to be short because no one wants to read. So you're there to put the rose-colored glasses on, and everything has to be letter true, but it also is not confessional. I grew up Catholic. I know all about confession. This is not confessional. And the tone is like I'm talking to a dear old friend. And while I'm doing that, I have to set the stage and set the atmosphere and live and breathe the excitement because, of course, that's why they're going to hire you in the first place. All this is about nuance in communications and nuance in storytelling, gentle little figurative nudges to move that needle of how they think about you and how they think about your quality. Let me share a few of the shares that I have done. I'm going to go a little bit smaller over top of these so they can take center stage a little bit more. Here on the top left, I was up on stage with Reverend Jesse Jackson at the Rainbow Push Wall Street project. This was the very first year. Now, I'm so glad that that picture of me is so tiny because I was very stressed, very, very stressed. I had about 2.5 hours sleep. Good and bad in life all happens at the same time. And this is the week my father was passing away in hospice. And I had just flown down to Florida the weekend before, as I did the weekend before that, to see him. And his spirits were really good, even at 91. And he's like, wow, this is so exciting, John. You're going to be up on stage with Reverend Jesse Jackson. And last thing I'm thinking about, because my father here is passing away in hospice. And a lot of stress is the point. And yet, you know what? Opportunity knocks. This is a wall behind me, a little bit of a green screen, as I'm sure you see by the edges. But opportunity knocks, that is the opportunity you have to be ready for. I can't I'm not, it's a bad week for me. Well, I guess this opportunity will go to somebody else. So I'm up on stage there. I'm the only non-African-American up on stage. I'm the only male up on stage, besides, of course, the Reverend Jesse Jackson, with 4 other career coaches and me. And I'm like, how do I get here? How do I get here? Learn how to open doors. Life is not transactional. Oh, what if I do this, John? What will I get? I don't know. But I know what you'll get if you keep doing the same thing. So that's my opportunity. And I decided they needed a motivational, almost evangelical pitch. So I had 12 minutes of my own to present. That was very generous, 12 minutes. And I said, I'm going to give them a motivational pitch for 12 minutes with like 40 slides just flying nonstop behind me. And I got the very first question, and I got 30 to 35% of all of the questions. This is opportunity. You got to be prepared for it. So here's some other articles that I posted. Here up in the top right, I'm over at the Google keynote for Social Media Week to listen to the speaker there. Very, very interesting. Here I am up at WHCR, Voice of Harlem Radio, done their 2-hour drive time, 6 to 8 in the morning, several times, a lot of fun. Up in Albany, pitching the lawmakers for funding for the libraries. By the way, when I speak at the libraries, that is all volunteer. There's no funding for John. So I'm not up there getting funds for John. I'm up there getting funds for the public for the library. Has nothing to do with what I do professionally, except that it is a good deed, good works. And that's another aspect of the story. Or featured in AM New York with some other stuff. So that's always kind of fun. Or breaking the regularly scheduled attendance record for any thing at the library. I'm very competitive. I love to do that. Some more articles, some more features, all of that. Or suddenly, I thought I was getting punked. I get this call, and I'll come a little larger for this part of the story. I thought I was getting punked. Someone calls me up and goes, "Oh, you're in Essence Magazine this month." I'm like, "Who is this? Maybe I should go look. Maybe I'm there." And even in those days, the magazine stores had started to disappear. Need a little coffee. And I finally tracked one down. It was very hard to find because Barack was on the cover, so it was sold out. But then I find it, and here's my book. My book is on the reading list. It got on the reading list from this shorter gal in this picture here, talking to some other career coach. Don't look here, don't look here. Yet my book is on the reading list because I saw opportunity. Someone said, "Hey, I'm out in front of the library after the lectures answering questions," and she steps up and goes, "Oh, I'm blogging about my job search for Essence Magazine." I'm like, "Oh my gosh, you should have my book." I can connect those dots very, very fast as I get a tissue. And I just trusted it would find its way someplace, and it did. It found its way right onto the reading list at Essence Magazine. So open doors. It's not transactional. Think about how you open opportunities up for you, and that's through self-promotion all the time. You're going to be the champion of you as this product. That is the greatest influence you have. And small little changes everywhere change perception on everything. Gentle, figurative nudges that move the needle about you. Social media, when you go to actually begin to share on social media, you have to think about where you are. Why am I using this platform? What's my goals? What's my purpose for this platform? Are my target markets using this platform? Or why am I using it if not? All of that kind of factors into it. As an example, I use LinkedIn to showcase all of my professional, and I use Instagram, which a lot of people use, simply to showcase another aspect of who I am. Because when you hire a career coach or when you hire someone to help reinvent your career story across resume at LinkedIn, yes, they want you to be capable and qualified, of course, but they also want to know what makes you tick. So what do you see on my Instagram? John hiking up the Hudson Valley or climbing Half Dome out in Yosemite. Things that all take on challenge in one respect or another, even some emotional challenges. I unfortunately lost one of my sisters on 9/11. So when that comes around, I share all those pictures on Instagram with the extended family. But everything you see on Instagram relates to challenge, which of course subliminally relates to what I do. Now, LinkedIn's a few other things, but beyond just the basics. It's just communications, research, marketing, and advertising platform. Now, individuals don't normally think of it this way, but you have to think of it this way. You have to think about how to utilize this three-level network that can land your miniature advertisements. That's what a share is, right on the desktop of other individuals, other people in the industry that might want to hire you. Information is the new currency. The more information you have access to, the more likely it is that you'll be able to leverage that to your benefit. So I have about a little over 12,000 connections. That's about 21 million people I could influence potentially 3 levels out. So back to creating what would interest my audience. Content is king. It has to be visual, can't be too much text. As you choose your platforms, there's more and more every day. Don't get drawn into that. That's not what it's about. Pick 2 or 3 platforms that you can manage and control your time. That's the only thing that you have. Don't waste your time. Build out your LinkedIn profile to be this full out selling brochure for yourself. Check out my full LinkedIn lecture to really understand how that part works. And then brand your career essentially by not only having the content about you being right, but also begin to build this sharing process. Now, when I share things, I have it naturally flow out to Twitter as well. So I send it, or X, whatever we like to call that. So all of these different things I let flow across the platforms, which influence how people think of you. Now, yes, a lot of mine have me in them because I'm a public speaker. I wouldn't expect all of yours or many of yours to have you in them, but it is like letting the industry or audience look over your shoulder to see what you're reading, doing, sharing, attending. That's how you tell them that you're living and breathing your profession and that you have excitement and interest about what you do. And don't be afraid to be a real human being and sometimes even break your branding. You realize I exert a lot of branding control when you watch these things collectively together. But you know what? Be a human being because that sells as well. Again, small changes change perception. And when you're reinventing for a new career, that's incredibly important to your whole chameleoning process to become the new you. We then have to get ready. Once we fixed our story and fixed our outreach and start going after the right people, we're going to begin to land interviews, even when they're skeptical, going, oh, I'll talk to you, but I'm not sure you have the right background. Absolutely. Let's talk. You have to be prepared. You have to really go far beyond being dressed, and you have to do your homework. You have to put together a sales plan. So if you don't really understand how to properly prepare for an interview, check out my interview intervention lecture. It will take you through a deep dive of how you put together a sales plan to sell the new you. Because really, you have great story, good, bad, ugly, everything to sell, but it's your job to teach them how to select you. Not simply, oh, I hope they pick me, hope they pick me. I used to go to my library lectures all the time, and I'd stand up at the head of the class and go, oh, I hope they pick me, like a little flower waving back and forth. I'm like, they're not going to pick you. That's not the way it works. You need to stand up at some point and say, here's why you have to pick me, and here's why I'll be the very best one for the role. You have to teach them how to select you. And so much of that goes back to what we talked about earlier in this lecture today. Who are your competitors? Why are you more compelling them? And be ready to sell that aspect. Your signature block, of course, I can speak volumes about you. So here's my ridiculously long email signature block. First time I wrote it out, I thought, oh, what would my mother think? Looks like you made it, John. Whatever you've built in your background, whatever you own in your background, you can't be shy about selling it. Now, don't cross the ego and arrogance line. If you cross that ego and arrogance line, they're not likely to hire you. Yours may be a little bit more simple and basic, but I sure hope it at least includes your LinkedIn address line, which is your selling brochure, so that really everybody that ever meets you can one click understand who you are, what you offer, why you're interesting, and why you're special. When you go to reinvent yourself, like we're talking about today, it's deep, deep problem solving. We have to think about all the things that hold us back. We have to put together a proper job search. That's more than keeping lists, by the way. If you don't understand what a proper job search is, check out my Supercharging Your Job Search lecture, which will take you into the deep dive, because it's not as simple as the lists. It's a sales process. The basic steps are simple. Spend less time, significantly less time looking for job postings, and spend much more time putting together a statistically perfect list, which I teach in the LinkedIn lecture. Check it out, of 30 organizations that would hire you today if they had an opening. That's the great unknown. Select 25 or 30 individuals at each one of those, open their profiles, which triggers a marketing event of looking at them behind the firewall of the company. Ask them to connect. Don't wait for the answer, because it's simply a sales process. And then email the 3, 4, or 5 people you think are directly involved in the conversation to hire a person like yourself. Dear Jack, dear Jim, dear Jill, I just had to reach out and introduce myself to you. I'm so excited by what I see going on at XYZ company. Oh, by the way, I saw the Wall Street Journal article because I went and looked for it on your such and such launch. Oh, those things are always so good to get. You know, back when I was with ABC Company, all you need is a carrot to get an interview, which is called a meeting. Back when I was with ABC Company, we handled a very similar launch. I'd love to come in and share with you how we tackled all those issues I bet your team's experiencing. Then go for the jugular. I have an opening on my calendar. Your words are very, very important. Tuesday at 10 a.m., one day, one time, never, ever more. Might that work for a brief meeting? That's your job. Sell, repeat, book these meetings, dazzle them, have them really get you or give you that job, create that job, whatever it might be. Think about all the different things involved in job search itself. Structure a really great job search. Reinvent your social media share plan for the new direction you want to showcase. Change that story across your resume, across your LinkedIn profile, and then manage your job search correctly so you're balancing all of your activity, and allow yourself to think in terms of more of the unusual, unexpected, unconventional, because that is going to produce a very, very different result. Beyond everything else, they're going to select you for this new role, even without that background that a competitor might have, because they get your energy, they get your commitment, they get your drive, and you've got to be ready to present and sell that. They don't want the same old thing they've always hired that tends to fail one after another. They'd like that new unstoppable energy, and that's why you can reinvent yourself. Wherever you are in the process of reinventing yourself, take your first step. Understand that all of this is a mechanism we're trying to repeat, and repeat. That brings us to the end of today's Charting Your Career Transition. Think about how you'll reinvent yourself. Now, tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern, we're going to do a deep dive into all the details of how you build out a fully functional social media share plan. 2 hours of homework it'll take, and then 2 minutes a day is all it takes to execute an effective plan. The rest of your day you can use for job search, managing your career, or still working at your current job, whatever that might be. Thank you guys for joining in. If this was valuable to you, I really would appreciate a like, a comment, a share, all those things that really do help the algorithm and keep me presenting these lectures to you. If you need help, check out my SelfRecruiter website, check under the services tab. All my packages are there. If you need to talk before you know which one is right for you, send me a quick email by direct email. That's John@SelfRecruiter, and I'll answer all your questions and we'll chat before we get started. Thank you guys for joining in today, and have a great rest of your day. Take care.